I needed someone to give me a chance and to support me genuinely. Not when things get hard. Oh yeah, let's get rid of Chris Armas. Really? Like that?
Mhm.
And I actually think, as much as I needed Colorado, I think they could use a guy like me. I'm not embarrassed anyone in that video session, but I also could say the doors are shut. Say, guys, what do you guys think of this? And I'll ask questions and I'll say, hey, you take the laser. You walk me through this play.
Because that's the time to do it. That's the time to hash it out.
Yeah, it's real player empowerment.
Yo, like, how do you guys always move the magnets, but then hold it with one hand and the magnets never fall down? And like, y'all must be practicing this at home. There's no way that
They
you get
are.
in front of
They
the
are
group and then
practicing.
you move the magnets. Okay, the 6 is here. Go this way. Da da da. You moving 3 magnets at one time without dropping none of them joints? Come on.
It's the strongest magnets in the world. They don't move. I go home. My wife goes to sleep. I'm looking at this thing. Hoping something comes to me.
This is New Ground with Allen Hopkins Jr. Let's go. And Jalil Anibaba.
We are back and we are better. Your favorite player's favorite show, the best show on your soccer radio, New Ground, your home, the epicenter of melanin-rich conversations about life, soccer, footy, whatever you call it. We hope that each and every time you dial in, connect, plug in with the show, you see yourself in everything that we do. I'm Allen Hopkins Jr. alongside my main man, as always, Jalil Anibaba. Jalil, how you living this week?
Yo, it's a vibe. I'm typically saying the same things because I'm always so excited.
Consistency is underrated, though. It is.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, it is. But the thing that I learned about consistency on the pitch is, the veterans, when I was starting my career, they said you can have one bad game because you're a human being, but you can't have 2 in a row. But the thing
Mhm.
about New Ground is we don't ever have a bad show. So don't
No.
touch that dial. You are in the right place to be. If I find out that you're driving in the whip somewhere and you change the channel, I'm gonna come haunt you down because it's your loss. New Ground is where it's at on Thursday nights, and it can catch the vibe that you need
Mhm.
to push you through the weekend as well.
You know what's really cool is, over the last couple of weeks, getting the chance to see people and them expressing love for the show and their executives in soccer and US soccer and MLS. And like, oh, I have a commute. I listen to the show. I love what you're doing. And I just wanted to let everyone know that we appreciate the support. We want to be a show that not only the players, coaches, and executives really plug into and tap into, but really a show for everyone who loves a beautiful game like we both do. And Jaleel, the U.S. men's national team has their own sort of March Madness, and
Mhm.
the fallout from not winning Nations League is real. And it
Yep.
certainly is a conversation that everyone is having inside their small inner circles, their bigger circles, across social media. It really is, as we now approach 400 days to the World Cup opener in 2026 for the U.S. men's national team. These things seem to be much more volatile in the response from different people. I'm curious, as the dust settles on a less than exciting window for the US men's national team, to say the least. What are your thoughts about where everything hangs as we move forward to the last part of this season for the Europeans and we get into the meat of the season for the MLS players?
What I find interesting, about this window and anytime the US men's national team struggles in any way is that, a lot of people come out and they're like, "Oh my god, this is completely unacceptable. These are embarrassing performances," or whatever have you. But I have said over and over that anytime you're talking about games as if they're a foregone conclusion before the game happens, you're not in a
Mhm.
good mental space. Whether it's the players, whether it's people who
Mm.
talk about the game for a living or whatever have you, like us or whatever, it don't matter. But ahead of the Panama game in the semifinal, I saw too many people, too many outlets, too many
Yes.
pundits talking
Yes.
about the final. What is your ideal, you know,
Mhm.
matchup that you'd wanna see in the final or whatever. I kept saying, "Wait, hold on a second. It's
Mhm.
not a foregone conclusion that the US is gonna beat Panama." That's
That's
the
right.
first thing for me. And then the second thing for me is that when you are embarking upon a journey to prepare for the World Cup, what would be ideal in everyone's mind is that the national team wins every single game, leading up to the World Cup and then wins every game in the World Cup to win the World Cup.
Right.
But football is exactly synonymous with life. That ain't
Mhm.
how life works. In order for you to figure out how to get the next job, you have to have a terrible job interview. And then you
That's
go
right.
back and you sit down with your mentor or look in the mirror and you're like, "All right, that job interview did not go well for X, Y, and Z reasons." You fix it for the next time and then you get better. So that for me is the frame of mind that I try to make sure I gravitate toward when I'm looking at the US men's national team
Okay.
more than an extremely cynical one or one that's blinded by fandom. So for me, I'm now looking at what does the national team do? What does Pochettino and
Mhm.
company do
Mhm.
to address things that did not go well against Panama to make sure that they're growing? You cannot grow unless you fail.
Mm, mm. You know, Jalil, that's a bar to say the least. And I go back to this whole idea of, are we asking the right questions to create the right platform to derive the answers we need, the solutions that we need? I mentioned way back when season one, back the end of last summer, early fall, that no foreign managers ever won a World Cup. Period. Full stop.
Yeah, when you first said that, that threw me for a loop.
That's what you have to reverse engineer things to figure out the pathway to get there. So for
Yeah.
me, when people talk about winning the World Cup, I'm embarrassed, to be honest. It makes me feel like we haven't emerged with a deeper sense of self and body of knowledge that it takes to be elite in this game. And there are several reasons why that a foreign manager's never won a World Cup. National identity and cohesion, right? There's always a
Mhm.
sense that a national manager understands the footballing culture, cultural understanding. Same country, you understand the players' cultural backgrounds, the languages, the social dynamics, familiarity with the player pool and our development process, historical precedent and tradition. I mean, national footballing infrastructure. I could go on. I
Mhm.
won't. But there are more than a handful of variables that other federations hold as key principles for success. And this is not about Pochettino. This is about our own identity as a soccer country. We've been doing this for too long now to not start getting our own confidence in our footballing managers, our coaches, how we're developing them. We don't have to be insecure. We need to just be ourselves, bet on ourselves, because I don't want necessarily for us to lose what made us so special in 94, in '02, in 2014 to gain what we need to be a proper footballing nation at the highest level, to be in a quarterfinal, to be in a semifinal, to be in a final. Those are all the things
And
we need.
for you, what are those things that made us special in 94, '02, and beyond?
Mm. You know, it's interesting because we used to concede back in the day, and I'm saying back in the day, Bora Milutinovic and the '90s, more my vintage and graying hairs in my beard, is why do we have to lose the greatness of America? And I'm not trying to be jingoistic, but the attitude, the mentality, the fight, the commitment, these are things that we're now questioning with these players in this pool, right? We are. Oh, they didn't
Mhm.
want it. Like we've been talking about this for a couple of years now, and dare I say a cycle plus, where we're questioning
Yeah.
the mentality of what it was like. I remember covering World Cups when you'd go to an opposing team press manager and they'd be like, "Hey, like we know we're better, but these guys are going to make us work." The American spirit, like when I hear Pochettino talk about he wants the American team to be more Argentinian because of the things that I just described, I don't necessarily agree with that. Full stop, period. We have what it takes in this country in terms of a mindset and mentality because of who we are. We don't have to lose that to gain the elegance, the intelligence, the soccer IQ, the gravitas, the savvy that you need to win games at that level. And I just feel like we have somewhat lost the plot in searching for everything else. We forgot who we are sometimes as a footballing country, and the commitment, the work rate, the esprit de corps, all those things matter. It does matter. And I don't want to lose that for the evolution of our country when it means that we don't get results anymore no matter what we do.
What's the most interesting to me, you preaching by the way, but what's the most interesting thing to me
Appreciate
is
that.
that as a as a footballing nation, and we're all victims and culprits at in one way, shape, or form, but as a footballing nation, nobody wants to
Mm,
fully address the fact that there is a very small demographic of our country that plays soccer at the highest level or
mhm,
has the
mhm.
ability or access to do so. So
That's
I
right.
don't understand how the US is
Mm,
supposed to compete with the rest of the world when it comes to football when the poorest kids in our country can't play the goddamn sport. I
mm,
don't that's what
mm.
that's what I don't understand.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
and when you talk about mentality, the people that are predisposed to have an advantageous sport mentality are those of the disenfranchised.
Mm.
People that grow up with having
Speak on it.
things are disadvantaged from a mentality standpoint to
Yes,
be the most elite athletes in the world.
that's right.
But we have a system that fosters those that have and blocks those that don't have. And then
Mhm,
when now when the national team loses or underachieves is the only time that people are real critical of, "Oh my
mhm,
god, the state of the national team is not where it needs to be. We need to have more fighters. We need to have X, Y, and Z people." Okay, but people in the hood don't play soccer though. So how
mhm.
do you also now expect people to try to go get it out the mud against people
Yes.
that will
Oh,
die
brilliant.
and bleed and do anything to be successful for the national team?
I
And to
Yep.
me, I feel
Mhm,
that the players are they they are what they are. From
mhm.
everything that I know from any of my boys that have played for the full national team, they're putting forth their level best. So I hate hearing about how, oh, people don't care
That's
when they
right.
play for the national team.
That's right.
I think that's bullshit
Yep. I agree with you.
because
I agree with you.
if you wanna tell me that it doesn't matter to players when they make the World Cup roster or they play for the national team, explain to me why Sean Johnson was weeping when Berhalter called him and told him that he made the World Cup roster.
That's right.
Explain that to me.
That's right.
But when you are
That's right.
talking about developing or cultivating talent that has innate mentality to fight for things, you have to get people that have to fight for every aspect of their life. Otherwise, when the stakes are at their highest, they're going to revert back to what they know. And what we know is the environments that we grew up in.
You literally took the words out of my mouth, and I was gonna pose it in a question. How many of our top players have come out of the mud? Like, we
That's
had
my
Eddie Johnson
point.
on, and I'm a byproduct of this. You and I have talked about this, the OGs, the Eddie Popes, the Kobe Jones, like, we Tony Sanders, so many of us have had this conversation about this shared experience in the bubble of suburban soccer. We went to where the game was oftentimes. How many players have come up out of the mud? It's a conversation you hear all the time, um, when we're in the midst of this generation 2.0 of NBA stars whose sons are becoming ballers. And one of the most consistent conversations that they have, and it might be Gilbert Arenas or Kenyon Martin or whomever it may be, they talk about where's the hunger, where's the desire, because they've been given so much. But you and I both know, to whom much is given, much is expected. And I just feel like we have forgotten the importance of diversity in these executive and coaching leaderships is sometimes to approximate what you need to grow as a player and as a footballer in this case. And I think right now we have created a sterile system where so much of what we do is the same that it doesn't allow anyone who has a different mindset or they really are really trying to eat. That's why it's so refreshing to have a conversation with Omar Gonzalez as someone who was very cognizant of the sacrifices being made. But I can be honest with you, couldn't say that my kids felt the same way, and they grew up playing elite at the highest level on the boys and girls side, right? It's hard to feel the struggle when you're eating nice sushi. real talk.
Right.
You know?
Straight
So
up.
it's just again important not only for our show, but I think Jalil and I just always try to keep it 100 anytime we chop it up, whether it be in this platform or text messages or DMs. It doesn't matter because I still think we have a long way to go as a footballing country to ask the right questions with humility, without pride, and without personal gain. And once we get to that level, I really think we have a chance to break through right now, which appears to be a little bit of a plateau, and a little bit of a leveling off. But we'll see. I'm not going to play the results. It's March of 25. I'm not going to pretend that it's June of 26, and I know you won't either. But I think everyone has a right to feel a certain way about the results in Nation League, about the U.S. men's
Facts.
national team for sure. Um,
Facts.
you do not have the right to feel a certain way about this next guest on our show. I am talking about none other than 2025 National Soccer Hall of Fame inductee and current head coach for the Colorado Rapids, Chris Armas, one of the best to do it in his generation at MLS, capped well over 60 times for the U.S. men's national team. He'll have an opinion or two or three as he stops on by. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to New Ground on SiriusXM FC. Joining us this week to cover New Ground, a man who recently was inducted into the National Soccer Hall of Fame, but has, like many of our guests, receipts longer than a couple of trips to CVS or maybe even Costco. We're talking about a defensive midfielder, Galaxy, Chicago Fire, MLS Cup champion, Supporters Shield, Open Cups, 6-time MLS All-Star, 5-time MLS Best 11, even has a Comeback Player of the Year award. He's a former U.S. Soccer Male Athlete of the Year in 2000. I'm talking about Colorado Rapids head coach Chris Armas stopping by to join us this week. Chris, what a long and amazing journey. Thank you for joining us today.
It's good to be on. I appreciate you guys having me on, but it's an easy decision if you guys ask me. You know, both of you guys I go way back with, and hopefully not more than you know, but I have tons of respect for each of you, and anytime I love being part of it.
Chris, I had a chance to catch up with a mutual great friend and Jimmy Liston, and you know, the first time I met you, you were coming back from surgery and you were training at Cats all the way out. I remember way back when, Deep 626 Jalil for the Southern California folks. And, it was so good to catch up, right? And he had so much of an appreciation and happiness and joy about the journey, and someone that's been around the game. And I want to present that same sort of opportunity for you as you've been able to think about, obviously reflective, and we'll talk about it later about being inducted to the National Soccer Hall of Fame. But what still excites you? What still motivates you? Where are you finding the joy in the game after all these years from player to coach?
Well, firstly, Jim Liston. I mean, we go way back, but that Cats, that I think it was Competitive Athletic Training Zone, something like this. But the first guy that I had been around, and lots of people have been around in athletes, top athletes, around this idea of these circuits and this type of off-season training, type of fitness training that just puts your body through it. But this total body work, no surprise that Jim, I mean, he's an incredible being, but the work that he's still doing with the Galaxy and winning MLS Cups. But he helped me get back, one to stay in top shape, but also to come back from some ACL injuries. And when I was on the national team, my off seasons were spent with him, and I'd leave my preseason and say, "Listen, guys, I can spend a month with a guy that I know will crack the whip of me." It was that physical therapy. The whole bit was amazing. So, um, look, it's yeah, it goes way back. What keeps me going? It's this common thing that I think both of you guys understand, and any athlete, not just top athletes. Because what's a top athlete? Okay, at the high level, but there's a lot of top athletes that don't push it to go as far as they want, but is just a hunger that from my parents, as I say, from God. For me, one of my gifts is the hunger that I've always had. I didn't
Mm,
that at age 10. I didn't learn at age 30. I always had a hunger and desire for play, for competition. Um, winning is always the byproduct. Like you just find yourself on winning situations, and I was fortunate, but I think I was just born with from what I say, like just the DNA and what was inside of me that I always loved to compete. So I see a lot of athletes lose hunger, lose desire, and then you can see it almost at any level of any business, corporation, team. Complacency will kill any of those things. It's a sad sight. I've seen it. I've experienced it. I've tried to play with that, meaning teammates. I've tried to coach that. Can't do it. Impossible. And I know that. My job, if I have to motivate and rah rah, we got this, that's not sustainable. It doesn't work. You can get 12-year-old kids up for a game, but wait till that game goes on. What happens in the second half or the course of a season? What are they doing in the off season? How does training look like? It becomes effort. And when it becomes effort, it's done. You just can't, you can play, you just can't expect to do anything. I
Mm.
wouldn't want to play in a staff game with anyone that doesn't. And believe me, it's not about, I can't believe we lost that game, or how did you miss that pass? It's,
Yeah.
does this matter to you? Just go sit down. It doesn't even,
Right.
Mm.
what is fun to you? Like when you play 5v2, what is fun? It's not
Right.
like, oh my God, 1, 2. It's not like how many passes, how many goals. It's, I don't know, try to play well. Like just what's fun. Keep the ball, make some good passes, be reliable. When you go in the middle, you're just gonna jog around like that. Don't you want to get out of the middle? In
Right.
almost anything you do, my parents always taught me just do the best you can do. And thankfully I always had this desire and hunger for life. So I'm 52 years old. My wife says, I don't know where you get that energy that you have every day just for the team and for coaching. And so, hun, it's just I've always had this relentless, endless tank for it. And that's just something inside of, I think, many individuals that are able to, maybe thrive or just survive in this business.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting, coach, is that I always describe to people the way that I look at that concept is fun is synonymous with being good at something. Like when we were kids, when I was hanging out with my brothers or whatever have you, the homies in the neighborhood, if we're playing video games, I don't want to play the video game if I'm not good at it. So I figure out how to get good at it. So it's fun. Like what you know what I'm saying? And that concept brings me into what I want to know for you. Colorado Rapids has been an organization that has done this. It's gone up and down in recent times before you got to the club. It was a club that a lot of people did not speak fondly about, but you've restored the reputation of the club alongside of all your players and the entire organization. But is that something that you think about? Is that something that you have gone into this project as a source of motivation, or is it just a byproduct of what you just talked about?
It's both. I think it is a byproduct of what I've, what I know, but maybe even more importantly of what I've learned.
Mhm,
Like it's, you learn to be a coach. You don't just, you can become a coach, but become a really good coach or someone that maybe can move the needle and be somewhere for a little while. I don't know how long I'll be here. But I feel better, more equipped than ever from just learning from my past experiences. Like
mhm,
I had great experience as a player. I stepped into the Red Bull system from 2015 to 20. Some as an assistant coach with Jesse Marsh, half my time there as the head coach. I learned a lot about the playing style and philosophy and I started shaping it to who I am,
mhm,
about management, managing up, managing talent, managing roster. Sasha Klesch and Bradley Ray Phillips, like top talent. Then, guys like Kaku, international talent. Like, I think I did a good job, but if I went back there and could redo it, I think I could do even better. I've
mhm,
learned a lot. I've learned a lot from that experience. I got hired by Toronto, coaching guys, Josie Altador, Michael Bradley, a different type of like these top talents, and I think I did some good work with those guys even differently, like in um, that I learned from the first one, and I learned from that experience. Team couldn't win games. It's COVID. We have no home games. It's stress. there's lots of challenges on the inside. And
Mhm.
I never have ever blamed my players in press conferences. Some say you should say more about the players. So it's not what I need to do. I think I can handle that in ways I want to handle that inside. But I learned from that experience a lot. I went to Manchester United right after that. So now imagine watching Ralph Rangnick and then myself having to deal with and manage the next level of that. Eddie Cavani, Harry Maguire, Cristiano Ronaldo, Marcus Rashford, Bruno Fernandes. Could you every which way you look, it's Juan Mata, Nemanja Matic.
Mhm.
This was like a whole new learning experience where you learn to try to earn respect every day and deliver good work. Put your head down, and then they're calling you Ted Lasso. If the team loses a game, ha ha ha. But yeah, it's not in a good way that they're clowning you. How
Right.
do you good under stress? I've learned everywhere I've gone to. I've just sometimes in real time and sometimes after the experience to try to really learn. And here I am in Colorado, so I've had to come in very deliberately um, to say, "Come on, like no chance, Chris. You got to get this right." And now, bit of a clean slate to add, to delete a little bit, add a little bit to the roster, to come with a playing style, and to try to come with a way of working and start establishing a culture. And that I can say is we have a strong foundation built in 2024. We're going to try to add to the football. We're going to sustain the culture, and we're going to fight for the culture, which is an everyday thing that, quite honestly, I think is can slip in this business if you're
Yeah.
not on. You don't keep recruiting and getting the right people. You know, nature versus and then nurture. What do you do
Mhm.
with that day? Those are tough conversations sometimes, but you always have to have an eye on this stuff. And for me, I'm not afraid to say the truth. And I think I really believe I know what players want, right? They want to be coached. They like tactics. They like, they want to be held accountable. They like
Yep.
standards. They want to win, but sometimes they don't like the hard work. They don't like this, but in the end, they all do because they want to win and they want to get better. How do you win and how do you get better? Well, you got to get coached. You get messages. So listen, I think I'm really proud of this culture that we have maybe reset because things like you said, Jaleel, were once pretty strong around here. A lot of the coaches that are on my staff here were here before I got here, and it's a different way of working, I'm sure, for everyone. But there's good people here, and my bosses, Pari Smith and Fran Taylor, they're good people. So I think I honestly I think coming to Colorado, I needed it. I needed
Mhm.
I needed someone to give me a chance and to support me genuinely. Not when things get hard. Oh yeah, let's get rid of Chris Armas. Really? Like that?
Mhm. Mhm.
I like that, my other previous situation, like that's it. Okay, I got it. But you need some time and these guys have shown real support for me. And I actually think as much as I needed Colorado, I think they could use a guy like me to come in with a way of playing, a guy that can, from a style, forget soccer style for a second, just a coaching style of having a way, a
Yep.
guy that has patience and maybe some knowledge to coach the individual, to then put that in a team and say, okay, here's now it's going to look like, and then probably most of all, honestly, guys, to create an environment. Imagine you have ability to coach individuals, even a team, and then you create an environment. Players are afraid to make mistakes. They don't want to try things. You yell at them too much when they mess up. They don't have joy when they come to work. Music here, we got music. But when it's time to work, we work. And Julia, you come and we try to make you go with a coffee. I remember you want a
Yeah,
coffee.
straight up.
Well, I think about the people and
Yeah.
that they come here and that this is what it is, that and everyone that comes through these doors feels like there's something good going on here. We're not going to win all the games. We might lose more than we win. I don't know. I try to really come with a plan and then put it all where guys can just feel good. Those hours that people are here, and then what good is learning standards,
Mhm.
push,
Mhm.
competition, fun, details, video, leadership. This is
Love
what
all
I think
this.
I know, and I'm relentless at just trying to move this thing, keep moving it, and then we don't get too high or low, but just keep sustaining and trying to in a league that's guys, it's tough to win, if I'm being honest. So
It
it's
is, it is, it is. I wanted to follow up on something real quick that you said that's very interesting to me. You said that you do not bash your players in the press. Easier said than done, first and foremost, because when the chips really start to fall against you, a lot oftentimes that's when you see coaches start airing their dirty laundry. But for you, why is that something that's important? And how does that play out with your team? Because in my experience, that's the first domino that falls where the coach loses the locker room when they start to come out in the press and they're saying stuff that they normally wouldn't when it comes to disparaging their players.
it's just my leadership style. Like I don't do well with not saying it. Like, hey guys, we need to play better. I've played for some coaches, not a lot, but a few where the generalizations, I don't think it's it's what we need. I don't
Mhm.
if you're gonna say anything, if 4 players are playing really good and 6 are just being lazy and terrible, we need to play better. I don't believe that's the way. I think
Mhm.
I have a better feeling saying, "Come on, man, you gotta stay tuned in. We need you to do you know not know the" I can say that to someone's face. I can better than
Right.
I don't think that's the way. Now, it doesn't mean that like I don't go to a press conference and say, "We played really good," if we didn't.
Right.
But I
Right.
lump myself into we got outplayed, we got
You don't
outcoached
play the result. Yeah.
in every level, guys. We were not good enough today, and because the fans are listening and your bosses are listening, you can't bullshit people that
Straight
know.
up.
So yeah, we didn't play. We just didn't bring our good stuff. And in this league, when you don't, yeah. So then, hey, what'd you think of the back line? Listen, like I can manage those questions, but you can be sure that when we win games on Tuesday morning, when I got the laser in my hand, we're looking at video and I'm cutting a lot of footage oftentimes. I'm not I'm not embarrassing anyone in that video session, but I also because the doors are shut. Say, guys, this is not. What do you guys think of this? And I'll ask questions and I'll say, hey, you take the laser. You walk me through this play.
'Cause
Mm.
that's the time to do it. That's the time to hash it out.
Yeah. It's real player empowerment.
Coach isn't going to show video because he's afraid of hurting feelings.
Right.
I protected in the media, but now it's how else do you grow? And by the way, like I might come a little bit lighter on days you lose. On days you win, I can go maybe a little, or maybe it's just
Mhm.
straight,
Right.
even. Guy, coach them the way you'd want to be spoken to. Jill, we know it. We've done this in preseason talks with some of the racial stuff that goes on, some of the abusive language. No, you have to sometimes coach the way they want to be spoken to. How do
Straight
you know?
up.
Not like
Mm.
what's good for me. No, no, hold
Well
on.
said.
Ali Laraz, Chidozie Awazium, one players from here, this part of the world. I get to know my players and I get to know. Today I got after someone training and I'm like, Chidozie, you know what I mean right there? When I say, hey, no, I know what you mean. I'm constantly I,
Mhm.
I'm
Communicating. Yeah.
tailoring. No one has different you can be late, you cannot be late. We got we got team first is our rule around here.
Mhm.
You from team first, I'm coming after I'm gonna have a word. But
Right.
we have standards for everyone that's the same. We know right and wrong. Right is not wrong for some and wrong for right. It's not. However, I know how people want to be spoken to around here. So I speak
Right.
to them. I'm trying to get through to them. I'm only teaching if they're learning, but different people have different. But I don't embarrass anyone. I don't talk down to people. I respect. There's not an ant that walks by that I don't respect. I respect, and I give respect because I want respect. So I think that goes a long way. I think this is a people business, and if you mistreat players, you blame them, then I think honestly you're missing it. But I do think you got to keep it real with guys, especially professionals. They'll know that if you're tiptoeing too much, they will see that as weakness. So I just
Yeah.
say what it is.
I recently just got back last week. I'm on the advisory board at Brentford FC, and Jalil and Steph and I have a text, and there's moments where I'm trying to prove myself even though I'm already in the room. You were at Leeds, you were at Man United, big clubs. What did you learn about trust that is so important and something that you're carrying into this role with the Rapids, because when you get into these elevated elite environments, there's more than the football and the operations and the boardroom that goes into these things. So, what have you learned about trust that you value now that you're applying every day to be the better teacher, better coach of the game?
Yeah, listen, I was at Manchester United for about 7 months. Leeds was much quicker. When I got there, they made a change with Jesse Marsh. I was a little bit dangling. I wasn't there as long to see and comment about the trust piece. But at Manchester United, it's if Cristiano Ronaldo, for example, who what heaven sent that I got to work and be around a guy like him.
Hmm.
Because he teaches you so much by if you just watch him, you'll learn about how he thinks about the game, how he moves in the box, his positioning, his off the field preparation and behaviors. He's a top professional. But if you don't start a guy like that, what does that do for the what does that mean? So you talk about managing your top talent and like Lionel Messi right now. If they take him off, and that could be a tricky one. How do you, because it's you meant no disrespect. You might think you're doing what's best for the team, but it's sometimes what's best for the team.
Right.
Do you lose the battle right there, but do you maintain the trust with a guy that cares so much and is so influential? This is always interesting when you think about
Mhm.
top talent. Listen, I was around those guys. I was around Josie Altidore, and I respect him more than anyone might even know. And I took him off one day, and I think back, maybe I should have just left him on because I was
Mhm.
I thought it was like he was coming off an injury, and the previous game was a 45. Should I get him to 70? I made a change, and after, in retrospect, I say I didn't realize that he might perceive that I'm not thinking he can help us get the win, and
Yeah.
I
Right.
would I would leave him on. He's top player. I thought injury,
Hmm.
and I did that trust piece. I could have even checked in with him, being really
Mhm.
candid now, guys.
Oh, right.
I could have
Yeah.
checked in. Rosie, what is the performance team saying? Do we need to change it? And that
Hmm.
might even help the situation. But I think I didn't. I think I could have even. Again, learning. I'm not saying real time. I didn't do what I think was right. But when you
Right.
ask a question about trust, um, I wouldn't. I think that's a risky move right there. Is checking in with my star guy. So I learned
Yeah.
with Toronto. Um, and I know what I know from the trust piece. Like, guys, I know this from all my experiences. It's hard to build it up. It is. It's hard
Yeah.
because the
Yep.
players, they don't come to work every day thinking, gotta hopefully get some good rapport with Chris and develop trust. They don't think that.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm trying to
I'm
get some coffee cooler, water cooler talk. Like, it doesn't really work like that.
Yep.
I'm I'm telling you, Arne Slot at Liverpool, I listened to something. I said, Chris, you're on the right track. I have the same feeling that he was saying on his the whatever I listened to a podcast,
Hmm.
that when he's the night before work, he's thinking about how he's going to talk to the team. What is he going to
Yeah.
say? How does he show up in front of them in the meeting? Because it's so much about the feeling in the team and the
Yep.
energy in the team,
Mm.
and oftentimes about you're on trial every time you. As much as they respect you and they think it's magnets. Like, you're always on trial when you're in front of the team. I think they're always looking like what and but I try to really invest myself in these guys, and it's not always easy to develop trust. So you build it up layer by layer, and over time, bang, you got these guys. And it sometimes it one wrong move, doc, the trust is gone. Like, you
Mhm.
in this business, I've learned that you. That's why every decision, every halftime talk, if you every media after a game,
Hmm.
I've spent a lot of time. Is it worth it right now just to say, hey, so and so on this goal should have done better? Why would he go to ground? Bang, he listens
Right.
to that. He's like, well, fuck that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mhm.
so I've learned that, and I've always known this, but as a manager with a group that you want all in all the time, tough moments, you don't want to be standing in front of a group that some guys are in, a few are out, that you've lost trust by not maybe being a little careless at times, maybe not knowing at times. You think you're doing the right thing, but did you? So I'm a fiery guy. I'm a passionate guy. I'm not an antics guy on the sideline, but I'm
Yeah.
full of fire. Um, and I've grown to a place, and I don't get yellow cards, red cards in my playing career. I'm not an explosive, out of control guy, but I am
Mhm.
more measured now than I've ever been because I'm just cautious to be
What you're
really deliberate.
communicating. Yeah.
Yeah, and what you're trying to do,
And acting, just like, hold on a second. 'Cause there's times I'm ready to go out there and
Mhm.
attack some and I'm seeing.
Mhm.
I sit back. I'm like, okay, and I wait, and I. So listen, I'm not saying I'm getting it all right, but I am more measured and deliberate from my past experiences. Just little moments that have helped me grow and maybe manage even better than I ever have.
And that right there, what you're describing is wisdom in its truest and purest form.
Agreed.
And we've just been talking about trust, but where the ability to trust other people truly comes from starts with trusting ourselves, right? And what I want to know, and I want you to share with us, is a time in your life where you covered new ground in a way where it had nothing to do with soccer. You evolved yourself through your life in a way that had nothing to do with soccer, but it helped you fortify your career and to continue to help you grow as a man within what you do as your job.
Yeah, listen, I think there's two things that stick out. The experience that I had at Manchester United, guys, I'm telling you, guys like me don't find themselves in those walls. That's
Yep.
kid from
Yep.
Brentwood, New York, that came from nothing. Like, you know,
Mm.
that it's just not that easy, right? How do you get to Manchester United? Forget interim position, like that. I'm there establishing myself in those walls. Ralph Rangnick brought me there. He saw the work I did with the Red Bulls. He was a global sporting director, got to see me work, and
Yes.
then when he needs a right hand, he calls me. Now, I don't care if I'm the 10th guy he thought of, but he called me and I found myself in those walls. And when I was there, I was very clear and calm to do good work, and I don't need anyone to tell me I did or didn't. I know what good work looks like,
I
and
love it.
whether it's Juan Mata or Darren Fletcher, a legend at Man U whose desk was right next to mine for 7 months. Chris, you've done amazing work here. I want to thank you for, like, I know that, and Juan Mata giving me the
Mm.
endorsement for Leeds United when that sporting
High
director said,
praise.
Chris, you have no idea what Juan Mata says about you as a coach and a human being. And again, Juan Mata is not going to bullshit anywhere. Like, he's going to say
Right.
what it is.
He doesn't
What is
need to.
so? But every day, feeling the connections with the Harry Maguires, the Cristiano, or the Cavani, or you know,
Mhm.
Scott McTominay. I invested myself in the project. I invested myself to try to help. That was my message day one to that team. Guys, I know you don't know me from a hole in the wall. I'll tell you, we do have something in common. We all love the game, and we're all trying to, competitions in our blood here. And I'm here just to help this thing, to
Mhm.
support and to help this thing the best I can. And I did that. And when you work tactically and you get thrown out there, you're not like on the side taking notes. I'm the guy running the tactical sessions or this or that, but I really grew a lot. And part B of that, my dad was battling esophageal cancer at the same time. And I knew that when I took the job, but
Mm.
it's stage 4, he's home watching from afar. That time in my life, um, it changed my life. It Your point about being more comfortable at who you are and knowing who you are, to stand tall, to trust yourself that you're good enough, that you despite what they're saying on the outside sometimes, despite taking bullets when I was in Toronto and say, Chris Armas, right, out, out, like, right, not it gets quiet really quickly. How many people have come into your defense?
Right.
Like, I don't know. It's funny. 6 months. 20 new players in that team. Maybe it wasn't Chris.
Right.
Like, it's interesting, but you say, "You know what? I don't need to defend myself. I gave the best effort, and I'm gonna learn from it." But I gave a go, and that stage of my life was really interesting about football, a little bit, because it was much about standing up tall and believing who you are, that you belong in an environment like Man U, and then my dad was, I can't even explain what he meant to me in my life, and trying to get through that period was very difficult, but I left that with a different perspective, and somehow I felt different for that year and a half that my dad went through that. So yeah, that was there was a before and after with this.
The theme of resilience is certainly one that I know is something that you're clearly familiar with innately, and having that hunger and desire burn inside you. And you and I were connecting when you were a head coach finalist for a handful of jobs. And I'm curious on what you do, or what was your mindset to make sure you're prepared and staying confident and staying at a high level of belief, because you have to have it when you're looking for what's next. And then how does that translate into sort of the gratitude you feel you can show and model to everyone that you're back in these roles? And what made me think about it was seeing Dave, Shaw Reed, Bruce Arena, Dave Saracen, Shaw Reed, Joseph during preseason, and they had so much just big smiles on their face. So I'd love for you to even give a couple nuggets on the mental conditioning that you use to navigate the world of coaching, where you don't know when it's going to end, but you just know that something else has got to happen.
I think there's a couple of things there. One, I think how in this business, the more we go on and learn and grow, the better we're getting, just because you get those experiences under your belt. But I promise you, the more that you read and watch, and the more you realize how much you don't know. And
Mm, humility.
so it's you keep learning and evolving, and maybe your principles of play start here, but then when I just did a UEFA course, an A Pros it's called, and I had to go back and change my playing style with a couple of different nuances. I want to take that one out, add this. We want to build speed in our attack as opposed to that. So it's constantly evolving. Um, Taking Spanish classes to get my Spanish sharper, and think about my previous experience, and don't be too proud to say, okay, next time, maybe could you have done this different? Write down what you could have done better. What did you get right? What did you get wrong? For me, it's you have to have humility, and then have a hard look at the work that you're doing. But every opportunity that comes, can you be better prepared than the last time? So for me, I think that was a big part of it, just being humble and honest, and how can you be better? I've been on interviews and that different questions that I said, Ask me that question now. I'll slam it home. Ask me that now."
The answer comes to you a week later. You're like, "That's what I should have said."
I would listen, sometimes it's that, but more so it's when you know better, you do better. That's it. So now you
That's a
evolve.
bar.
That is a bar.
So that's something. Just how prepared can you be each time? But honestly, guys, like, I think in this business, if I think I see too many situations, players, my own kids that have come through in different teams. I think coaches can carry stress into coaching. And you say Bruce Arena with joy on his face again, and Shalri, and maybe it's that group there, Dave, Steve Ralston. Should it be accidental or deliberate that their team plays with certain joy? I don't try to come on the game day and say, guys, let's play with joy, play free. I
That's
talk.
right. It's too late.
There might be some things you gotta or figure out here on the day, but when we show up here, I there's some staff meetings in the morning that we might have had 4 hours of sleep, and we got to get in because it's a match day, whatever, and we're training a small group. Some guys got to get it in and out, regen. But I remind the equipment managers and the admins and the performance guys and my coaching staff say, guys, I don't need you going around saying, how do you feel? Everyone's fucking tired. You don't need to ask
Right.
how they feel.
Right.
Just
Straight up.
Yeah.
comb your
Well
hair, put
said.
some oil in your face, and just show up with energy. We don't have to talk. We're not doing backflips. Like, bring energy to what you do. You need a day off? Then tell me you need a day off. I don't need negativity around here. Heads down. So we don't fake it like happy when we lose, but we have, this is a big part of coaching. How do you want the environment to be? How do you want your team to play? You want them to play with freedom and joy and confidence? Then you have to have a culture that allows that. So again, if you're a coach, like, yeah, be prepared. The message about how do you really want your team to play? Well, you have to know that. You have to know who you are as a coach. How do you want that team to behave? Once you jot that down on paper, now you have to go and train that way.
That's
And
right.
if you want them to play with a certain energy and emotion and all this, then you have to nurture that and create an environment that allows that. So, yeah, I think it's the better you know who you are, how you want your team to. You have to have a way. And I've just been able to kind of add to little layers into who I am, and I never ever overthink it. I love
Mhm.
tactics.
Interesting.
I walk around with this freaking thing everywhere. Da, 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 da.
Mhm. Mhm.
If you're gonna give me this or a team that plays to win and energy, I'm taking that. I'm taking that. And I love the chess game.
Mhm.
Teaching guys how to defend in a low block. I love how we can create more goals by upgrading the shot and extra pass and shot distance closer and
Mhm.
unselfishness. But I much would rather have a team that when that whistle blows, these guys showed up to play and win. That's who I am as a player, and that's who I am as a coach. But knowing who you are, that will probably reflect in your team and your environment if there's some less stress and more joy in what you do.
For our serious audience who can't see us, Chris just pulled out his literal magnet board with all the tactics on it. And one thing that I was always amazed of with you guys coaches as a player is, like, how do you guys always move the magnets but then hold it with one hand and the magnets never fall down? And like, y'all must be practicing this at home. There's no way that
They
you just go
are.
up in front
They
of the
are
group and then
practicing.
you move the magnets. Okay, the 6 is here, go this way, da da da. You're moving 3 magnets at one time without dropping none of them joints. Come on.
It's two things somehow they're the strongest magnets in the world. They don't move. But when I leave the office, in the morning. I got my coffee. I put a backpack on. I need two hands. I got my coffee and I go home. My wife goes to sleep. I'm looking at this thing saying, hoping, hoping something comes to me. Like when I start jotting things down, it's madness. But we do like the tactics, like the how to gain an edge, and sometimes if you stare at it, maybe it helps. I don't know, but
I'm telling you, y'all y'all coaches are built different, Armis.
They are.
Y'all are built different. But before Allen closes, I have to ask you one last thing. For everything that you've done with the Colorado Rapids so far, give us your favorite moment. One singular moment, and why is it your favorite moment with the club so far?
yeah, it's not hard for me to come up with two, but let me try to narrow it to one. Um, I would say
We will take 2.
You can give us two if that's more comfortable for you, for real. Run it.
I didn't know so much about the Rocky Mountain Cup. This is a cup, a trophy shared by the fans of RSL and the Rapids, Colorado Rapids, and it's a 3-game series every year. Last year, it was 2 games in their building and 1 in ours. And the aggregate from all those games in terms of the points, whoever gets that wins that trophy. And our fans for 1 whole year or till the next, to get determined, they get to have that Rocky Mountain Cup. Well, when I met fans and I put myself out there, I was going to a couple of bars, a couple of appearances last year. Early on in the year, I listened more than I spoke. I asked the fans, like, what's important to them? How do they want the team to play? They wanted the team to acknowledge them, win, lose, or draw. We don't want players walking off. We don't want the team we want a team that fights, that shows fight. So I make sure my team, we acknowledge fans, we sign autographs, and we don't give up. But they also
Mhm.
said this Rocky Mountain Cup is the grandest. That we want that cup. So we went to their building twice. We had to go twice away before we had the home leg.
Mhm.
And we won game 1. We were winning game 2 until we lost it in the end, and it was all determined in game 3. If it was tied, meaning if that was a draw in game 3,
It was
they were
over.
well,
Yep.
we went down 1-0 and they were all over us. Fast forward, it was a delay, it was a rain delay or something like this. We go inside. It was a long game. We came back, we score. We had a penalty towards the end of the game in Cole Bassett. It's like
Mm.
steps it might have been the 90th minute, stepped up and buried it. And after that game, it just seeing the team show up, the nature of was probably the worst we played in all the 3 games, but they went and got that for our fans, and I felt really part of it. I'm walking around, I'm shaking the trophy to the fans, and the top flew off. They they told me I broke it. I said, "I don't care. We got the
Hey,
fucking."
because it doesn't have the magnets that
It
that
didn't have
the
the magnets.
basketball board
Exactly.
has.
I thought it was this, and I'm shaking it, and nothing's moving. So I thought it was that. But honestly, guys, we made the playoffs last year. It was home game. It was stressed, lots of injuries. We ended up ironically beating the last club, Toronto, that I worked for,
Mhm.
to get into the playoffs. And just knowing with 4 games to play, we qualified for the playoffs. Like that felt I had a lot of emotion in that very moment to myself because I just felt like validated. Like, yeah, Chris,
Mhm.
you inherited a situation that was difficult, and there was good work done previously with Robin Fraser. For me, he's a top coach, and then the
Same.
situation, injuries, some of this stuff going on, and that in a short period of time, we're something, we're something strong, we were something real, something um, that I'm building something real, and I felt in that very moment, the day we qualified for the playoffs, which my bosses like said, "Hey, we got to make the playoffs." Like that
That's right.
I felt validated. I felt like, maybe you're a good coach, Chris. You're building something real. That's 2
Mm.
big moments for me last year with the Rapids.
Oh, that is incredible. Chris, for someone like myself, I'm an original 303 kid, grew up in Aurora. We had Lauren Donaldson on, the city of Denver, Colorado. That's a real soccer market. And I know they appreciate what you're doing and this club, the direction that you put it in just a short amount of time. And real quick before we let you go, how amazing is it to be immortalized as a National Soccer Hall of Famer? And I love what the club did. Your friends and family, they got a good one on you.
Yeah.
Give us a sense as we're turning the corner toward induction, what that moment will be like.
I they surprised me by the whole thing, the announcement. Marcelo Balboa, it was on the video screen at the stadium, but then he walks out with my family. I mean, they blindsided me and blew me away. More than anything, the gesture that the club made to do this, to bring my family out, to put them up in a hotel. I had no idea. But more than the surprise and in that moment, the honor, the fact that again, you want to find good people in a business that, yeah, you don't win games, maybe they get rid of you. But in that moment, you felt really respected, and that
Mm,
yes, in this business of wins and losses and pressures, that you found some people that respect me enough to do that. So that was the first part. And guys, honestly, the Hall of Fame, the induction, I think it'll hit me at some point. But if that's a forever thing that your peers, you played this game again, that the young kid that loved the game and never for any, I was embarrassed. I might be embarrassed again coming up, but I was always embarrassed with the attention, the honors, any recognition. But if it means that you were among the best, that your peers and that you were able to play with the best by becoming a pro and then staying at the top, meaning staying in the league and then on the national team and some of the honors that you were able to stay there and be among an elite class of legendary soccer people, that is a special honor. So that's all I can say about it. That,
Mm,
listen,
mm.
it's just such a that means a lot. Just maybe for all the people in my life that were with me on the journey, my parents,
That's
my
right.
brothers, my teammates, the coaches.
There's gonna be a lot of crying. A lot of folks gonna be celebrating who you are on and off the field. It's amazing.
No, I'm proud. I'm proud to just be in the conversation with some really good ones there. I wasn't sure if it would ever happen. I started not seeing like I saw myself on that list every year. Maybe it wouldn't, well, maybe that's not happening, but I hate to say I wouldn't care because it's
Right.
what do you really want as a player? Man, would
Facts.
you rather get
Facts.
an honor that you deserve or don't deserve, or that when
Right.
Please, who's wants you on their team? You know what I'm saying? I
That's
wanna
right.
be
Facts.
respected by my teammates. I wanted to make it as a pro and then fight to stay there, and I did that. I never lost the hunger as a player. It was maybe a flaw that when I'm starting on the national team and Bruce Arena says, "Hey, you're going to the World Cup, Chris. You're gonna be starting in Korea."
Mm, mm.
I didn't believe him. Got a good one. No, no, I'm not letting that slip. I'm coming
Mhm.
every day, and that's what really mattered to me.
Wow. The conversation, Chris, amazing. One of 5 players, Jalil, in league history to be named MLS Best 11 at least 5 times. Now he'll forever get to wear that red jacket as a National Soccer Hall of Famer. Colorado Rapids got a good one. Appreciate you, Chris, for joining us here on New Ground. You really did, I think, evoke quite a few emotions, and we just appreciate who you are and what you mean to the game. And so we appreciate you, Chris, and we'll be keeping watch, and we'll definitely have you on later on as the season progresses as well.
Appreciate it, guys. I enjoyed hanging out with you guys for a little while, sharing some stories and info. But
Appreciate
respect both
you.
of you with everything. Thanks for having me on. Sincerely, thanks.
Welcome back. We close the curtain on another amazing episode of New Ground. Our thanks to Chris Armas, National Soccer Hall of Famer and the head coach of Colorado Rapids, just dropping so many amazing nuggets for each and every one of us. We appreciate his time as well. We'll have him back on down the road. It is that time every week we give out our flowers. Last week I gave out mine to former colleague and newly minted National Soccer Hall of Famer 2025 Colin Joe's Media Award winner Bob Lee. This week, I'm giving my flowers to Marlon LeBlanc. Marlon, ex of Philadelphia Union 2 last year, led them to the next pro final. He is now taking charge for the U18 youth national team. He has his side over in Marbella, Spain. Shout out to Marlon, one of the top coaches in our space. His son, Kellen, now a first teamer, homegrown signee with Philadelphia. That family is on the up. Congratulations to all of them. And shout out to Marlon for getting the flowers this week for me. Jalil, how about you?
Shout out to Marlon LeBlanc. When you talk about, man who really understands excellence and striving for it and putting
Yes.
people on and helping this next generation be the best top ballers they can be, you're talking about Marlon LeBlanc. And then to also see his career individually ascend in a way through hard work has been inspirational for me as well. My flowers are going from one who's developing top ballers straight into a top baller themselves. And I am giving my flowers to Cecilio Waterman. Scores the game-winning
Oh,
goal against the U.S. men's national team for Panama,
you're so
and
good.
everybody who has been awake for the last 2 weeks has seen the celebration, has seen how he he jumped over the barricade and celebrating with Thierry Henry and all the CBS homies,
Mhm.
but just straight up in a moment that meant so much to him, had the wherewithal to pay it forward and pay homage to one of
Yes.
the greatest to ever play in Henry and telling him, "You're my idol. Tú
Mm,
eres mi ídolo," which is
mm.
amazing to see just the raw emotion in a moment, but also to what I've been talking about recently is how beautiful sports are.
Yep.
Sports provide the opportunity to do things that you know internally are possible, but the entire world counts you out for.
That's right.
And this is not only a player who's balling in Chile, not only balling for
Mm,
Panama, but one that
mm,
clearly has the wherewithal to have been
mhm.
able to model himself to have been able to model himself after Thierry Henry, so he says, but to be able to do it in a way that shows a lot of rhythm, class, and remembrance. So I love moments like that. I love to see
Yep.
people pay it forward, pay it backwards, and make sure that they're doing it in a way that inspires their team, their
Mhm.
country, and most importantly, I would imagine Waterman's family is very happy as well.
Another excellent bouquet. I have a soft spot for Panama in a handful of ways. Coco Quedesquia is someone that I've known and worked with his family and his time in MLS. He's a top baller as well for club and country. But also back in 2013, as being a part of the U.S. men's national team, we won the Gold Cup. Omar Gonzalez, a part of that team in 2013. Eddie Johnson as well. And cool story later that night with DeMarcus Beasley taking the trophy all around Chicago. Who did we end up hanging out with that night? None other than the head coaches for Panama, Jorge and Julio Delivaldes. Like the game is so small. And when you're done competing at the highest level, sometimes it's much more like what we think from rugby.
You talking about the Gold Cup final in Chicago?
In 2013, my friend, you know, I'm telling you, bees had me up all night.
I was there at the final and then out at the club with all y'all, just on international break,
Oh,
chilling.
man. Oh, man. Oh, those are some of the best stories. Like, I still can't believe you and I didn't necessarily, link up, but I also was definitely, on fumes at that point because 'cause we'd been celebrating since, like, about 2 in the afternoon in Chicago at Soldier Field, and I'm a little bit older than you, so my legs were getting wobbly.
Hey, it be like
Good
that,
times
man.
though. It'd be like that, man. It'd be like that. And New Ground be like that too. We always enjoy everyone stopping by. This is the best part of what we do. We love the game. We love these conversations. Joel and I forever indebted and want to express the gratitude for everyone, including our amazing team, our executive producer, Stefan Geraldo, one of the best in the business, our team behind the scenes, Megan Fontenot, Krista Mann, our amazing music director, Mason. As always, if you love what you're hearing, love what you're seeing, make sure you subscribe. You can follow us on social media, on IG, on YouTube, wherever there is a spot. We are at New Ground Show. Tap in and plug into what we're doing. And that'll do it for this episode of New Ground for my partner in crime, one of the best to do it, Jalil Anibaba. I'm Alan Hopkins Jr. Till next time, this is New Ground on SiriusXM FC